I'm so good. Get good.
Continued. This does, however, bring us to our other anime review for the day, and that is episode 1 of Gosick. I watched Gosick a long time ago. I don't remember shit from it. I never finished it. This was a bazillion years ago. So this is basically nearly a blind review. Less blind than Seven Deadly Sins, which I have avoided like the absolute plague, but review nonetheless. And a near blind one. So we start off with some weird witch shit happening. I have no clue what the fuck is happening. There's just a bunch of fucking dogs eating rabbits and some weird witch lady screaming. And there's lightning. It's a lot. I start wondering if I clicked on the wrong fucking anime, because this doesn't look anything like what I have seen from the posters or the OP I watched on YouTube. So that was a lot. Bunch of rabbits die. So if you like rabbits, this is not going to be a good time for you. We then go to the opening. This anime decided we were allowed to watch the opening for the first episode. So lucky me, because this opening is actually pretty fucking hype. I enjoyed it. This is a pretty rad opening. The vibes and the aesthetic for it were pretty good. They clearly had an idea of what sort of theming and vibe they wanted to go for it. And that's pretty consistent in the anime. Whoever made this has a fucking big boner for fucking gothic aesthetics. Not edgy gothic, though. We're like talking like Victorian gothic. And they do pretty good with it. It's pretty aggro throughout it. It's pretty nice. Actually, the opening was a vibe. Only thing I didn't like is I don't like how every single solitary character showed in the opening is at least somewhat decently designed, except the protagonist. He's brown hair, bland protag syndrome as fuck. This is the first episode. He might end up being a very amazing character, but design-wise, it is not impressive, and it is immediately making me worried that this is just a blank slate character that they made boring on purpose, so lame, boring people can have something to relate to. I don't know if that's the case yet. I didn't watch enough to get that impression, but that's the impression I have from the 2 seconds I saw him in the opening, and if I would rank him even among other bland anime protag designs, like Shinji Ikari and fucking, the bitch from Sword Art Online, they would be pretty low even amongst them. So that's pretty fucking bad. Where this does compensate is, if you've been looking at the slideshow, the character designs of pretty much every other person I saw this episode stood out a lot. So they just didn't give a shit about this guy. I'm assuming they just wanted him to be a relatable, bland person in a sea of more interesting characters, which I've seen done bad and I've seen done good. So I'll see how this anime does it. They have a lot of implications that this is going to be a romance anime right off the gate in this opening. So I'm immediately not having high hopes for the romance in this anime. Purely just because I see romance done really lazily in anime most of the time regardless, or it's just done poor. In not even just anime, in media in general. Romance is hard to get right, and it requires a lot of time and effort, and rarely done right, in my opinion. But this anime also, I know, is a mystery anime, so I don't feel like the romance is going to be a dramatic forefront. So I feel like, just time-wise, the focus of it won't be enough for me to feel satisfied with whatever romance angle they have. But the OP is hype, and this is 2 minutes into the episode, so we'll see. I have hope. I remember liking this, so I have hope that I'll be wrong on the romance front being bad. But we immediately start out, and we're in a school, and the school is actually pretty interestingly designed. Schools in anime, a lot of them look bland. I've seen a lot of anime go overboard on weird future school look. And it's forgettable. This one's really into trying to force the foreign Victorian 1920s Gothic vibe, and it kind of works. It makes it feel pretty, and at least a little bit more interesting to look at than your average anime school, which I appreciated. So we have the fucking protag bitch. We learn his name is Kujo, and he's foreign, and he He's a foreign student at this school, and because of that, he has black hair, his eyes are dark, and all the weird students are spooked by this because of some fucking old folklore, and start calling him the Black Reaper. This is a shitty name for this character, so far. I'll hopefully change my mind later. It's cool in some of the dialogue later, but when I first heard this, I cringed and hated it immediately. I kind of will change my opinion by later in the episode, but first time I fucking hear it, I'm like, this is terrible. I hate this. I hate this name. This is so fucking edgy for a man so bland. But thankfully, he also hates it, so that saves it a little bit. So he ends up going to this library to read about folklore, because everyone's being weird about it here, and some fucking glasses chick runs up and starts yelling at him about reading ghost stories. And this is actually kind of fun. This is where I start getting a little more invested, because she comes up and yells at him about ghost stories, info dumps about it, seems concerned about his place in the school. I think she's a teacher or something. They probably said it, but I was taking a lot of notes at this part, so I think I missed it, but I think she's a teacher. Regardless, she basically tells him to read a bunch of ghost stories, and then tells him how he has to make a bunch of friends and then go hiking in the mountains and shit. It's a funny gag. She's being very overbearing and over enthusiastic, and it's actually kind of a vibe. I laughed at that. So after her doing a weird friendship rant at this poor student, he goes to the library to check out some books. While he's reading, this fucking absolute bullshit scene happens, and he's reading this fucking book, and he sees a fucking long-ass gold hair on it. And he's like, where did this hair come from? And he looks up. This library is enormous. He looks up. There's like hundreds and hundreds of flights of stairs above him. And this fucking bitch is like, this hair must have fallen from all the way from on top of this fucking staircase. And for some reason, his reaction to that is breaking out into a dead sprint and climbing hundreds and hundreds of flights of stairs up this ridiculous library. This makes no sense. This is fucking absurd. What is this man? What is his motives? Why is he this fucking thirsty about a blonde hair? Why is this spooky? I don't know. Maybe they'll explain it later, but this being one of the first things I see this guy do is a lot. I don't know, fam. But he gets up there and he sees the chick in a Victorian-looking Gothic Lolita dress, and he's like, that looks like a doll, and she begins to immediately go on a long, pretentious, cryptic rant, the gist of which she is implying that he is the piece that will solve her boredom, and also implies that she has predicted he will show up here before a certain time period the next day. He is spooked as fuck by this, so he gets the fuck out. I kind of enjoyed this. I like that. The scene was a little fun. I like that she went full Haruhi Suzumiya. I used to be a big fan of the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya back in the day, so a character immediately dickishly giving a man the task of being the piece to solve their issues being bored gave me Haruhi flashbacks, so that was a little fun. Let's see, do I have any notes after that? No, I don't. Okay, so basically, he shows up exactly when she thought, except a few hours late. We find her on the floor rolling. They do this bit a couple of times where she's bored, so she just rolls on the floor, which is kind of actually funny, because she's stoic as fuck. And her hair is just, like, getting wrapped in her everything while she is trying to roll. This did make me laugh a little bit. This kind of also has a similar issue that I noticed watching the first episode of Seven Deadly Sins, where they don't do anything interesting enough with the sound design or the animation to make the gag really pop. Like, it's not that invested in its own gag. But in this particular episode, I know that at this point, because they gave us this scene after the first dialogue where she just said cryptic shit, very monotone. So at this point, I already kind of have the vibe this is a very not emoting character. So this being stoic felt a little more intentional than it did this is just a not well portrayed joke in animation. So it felt more like the bit was that she was stoic about it. So I still kind of enjoyed it, actually. So we then have the exact opposite of stoic. I guess they realized there wasn't enough energy going on and heard me bitching. So they send in a motherfucker with a pompadour. It's above my head right now. And this absolute fucking lunatic is delightful. I immediately love him in this show because I'm fine with the characters so far, but there is kind of an issue where we have a very stoic character and then a very normie character next to each other. So by throwing him in, it immediately kind of picks the energy up. And we learn that his name is Greville. He has a pompadour, and he is an investigator. And he begins talking to our main character, Cujo, that I keep forgetting the name of, about this murder investigation he is doing. Cujo has no clue why the fuck he is doing this. We then learn over the course of this conversation, what he is actually doing is he is being very condescendingly, bitchily, yelling this loudly. So the blonde girl, who he learns name is Victorique. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct. I'm probably not, but Victorique, the point is he's saying this loud enough that she can hear it. And he's refusing to talk to her, but he wants to talk to Cujo loud enough that she will hear it and feel prompted to respond, because this has nothing to do with Cujo. And it's obvious. And by Victorique's responses, we can tell she either doesn't care that Greville is being petty and weird, or is used to it and desensitized to it. Either way, it is clear that these two have beef for some reason that we don't know yet. But for some reason, he also is relying on them. So Victorique then basically begins to, in a couple sentences, pull a Detective Conan and solve the entire case for this man. He then makes up an excuse and leaves after this. We then get a flash to a newspaper the next day where Greville is taking credit for solving the murder case, and all of Victorique's predictions were right. However, she was not credited for a single fucking thing. This pisses our protagonist the fuck off, who is apparently very lawful good, how fucking dare you about it. So he goes into this bitch's office and he fucking grabs him by the neck and is fucking screaming. He is pissed. Fucking Greville realizes that his cover is going to be blown if he lets this bitch fucking talk. So he grabs him by the mouth and then hides him in an office. He says absolutely nothing about any of this, but he says that they can join him on a cruise ship. So leave me alone. Main protag Cujo accepts this. He's like, yeah, hell yeah, cruise ship. Chill. I deserve this. And then Victorique, there's an implication by Greville that she is not allowed to go outside without his permission. This isn't focused on very much yet, but it is a very nice little piece of information to let us know that there's more going on than we've currently been shown. And it's the show telling us that it will give us information that we're supposed to think about. This is important. And this is the little line of dialogue that gets me invested into this show and makes me want to watch more of it. Because it's hard in a first episode to really sell somebody on a show. You got to get out a lot of information really quick. And you don't have times to have developed characters yet because it's the first episode. But what this does is it's telling the audience immediately, we are going to give you some shit that won't be spelled out for you to think about, for you as an audience to put in the work to think to yourself about it. And I appreciate that. It's giving the audience a role in watching the show. Because if you're creating any kind of art, this is my opinion here. All of this is an opinion piece. But I personally believe if you are going to be good art, you need to be invoking something from the person that is perceiving your art. And I feel like where a lot of visual, not visual media, a lot of shows fail at this is a lot of shows will just hand you stuff and tell you there it is. And sometimes if you're a person that just likes to turn your brain off, that's fine and dandy and that's good enough. If you just want noise. I don't want noise in media. What I want from a show is I want it to invoke something from me as a viewer of the show. I want it to give me a reason to think about the show when I'm not watching it. Otherwise, why the fuck am I spending my time on it? So if you just lay out everything too straightforwardly, it doesn't give me anything to digest and to fucking try to predict. But also, if you don't give me enough information, enough of a world either, then I am going to be left feeling like there's nothing worth thinking about either. So Gosick has done a great job in this episode with that one line of dialogue for immediately letting me know that there is some underlying things going on in this show that I should be thinking about and will get elaborated on probably, and if not, I should at least keep it in my head. So this one sentence made the episode for me, honestly, because it gave me the impression that maybe this will actually be a good show. Hey, welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for popping in. Hello. I am finishing up my live review of the first episode of Gosick right now. And after this, we're going to get into a wee bit of some Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you stick by, you can get some of that as well. To finish up this review of this anime, I don't know if you've watched Gosick. Oh god, yeah. I have never really watched Gosick. I watched a little bit of it, but I don't remember it. So, blind review of episode 1 of Gosick. And I just did one of 7 Deadly Sins. I just shat on 7 Deadly Sins. I hated it. That first episode was trash. I'll see if it improves in the second episode, but I'm not hopeful. This first episode of Gosick, to finish it up, basically, they are going to head onto this fucking boat, and we get just a shit ton of gags. We just get a shit ton of gags, basically back to back, to let you know that this isn't going to be a too stuffy of an anime, where these gags are actually kind of fun. I have them listed here. Basically, there's a gag where she has too much luggage because she has no grasp of what the actual appropriate amount of luggage is. They get to a city, and then they have a bunch of gags of various implications of basically she's never been in a city before. She doesn't know what the fuck is happening. She doesn't know what an ice cream stand is. She doesn't know what a horse carriage is. She doesn't know what any of this shit is. And it's done with very quick, snappy animation, which is the first time we've really had that in this episode. So I was not expecting it, so it made this joke hit pretty fucking good, because I wasn't expecting this character that was stoic to overreact at a fucking ice cream stand. So this was lovely and welcomed, because it gave an overall lacking in energy episode some extra energy to keep me through the rest of the wee bit. It ends pretty much not very long after this, though, because they get onto the boat. We get some vague implications that, well, not vague implications. We basically learned that the murderer from the case that we thought was solved has escaped, and we have some riddles implying some things we don't know the answer to yet, and they get on the cruise ship, and the little bit I can guess is this murderer will somehow get on the cruise ship, so they're getting on because they're fucking weird and they're bored. Fucking weeb. I am a weeb. That's why I'm reviewing an anime. If you're not a weeb, I don't trust you to review anime, because I don't trust your media literacy for this in particular. But I liked this episode. This was a good episode. I enjoyed it. I'm excited to watch more. There's some things I pointed out that I bitched about, and there's some things I think might be flawed. This is certainly not perfect, but I enjoyed it, and I have hopes I will enjoy the next episode.